Welcome to Cry About It, the podcast about all those sad songs that make us oh so happy and much, much more. Tonight, I am honored to have a longtime friend and amazing artist, Koji, with me. We're going to talk about a new release that they have coming out, and we're going to just kind of shoot the shit, go down memory lane a little bit, and talk about this amazing project that I'm extremely excited about, and I'm excited that it ties back to Harrisburg, where Koji grew up, and where I have been a transplant for the better part of a decade now, which it's wild to think about. So thank you for joining me.
Yo, thank you for having me. It's good to see your face even in a little square, you know?
Agreed. So I first met Koji 2007 or 2008 in German, Pennsylvania at Eleanor Rigby's. And I was running a venue at that time, and I walked in the door, and I want to say it was either a tour with Settle or Your Best Friend.
I think it was both.
Settle and Your Best Friend.
Yeah.
Two amazing bands that anybody wants to go look up and dig deep to find them.
Yeah.
Great in their own right as well. And I walked in the door, and there was a lemonade stand for merch set up in my lobby, and there was a cat crawling around on it.
Oh my God.
And I was just like, you deal with a lot of stuff when you're running a venue, and you're like, okay, this is going to either be like really, really cool or a really big pain in the neck. And it was awesome. We hit it off immediately because my wife was from Harrisburg, and I've been a longtime fan ever since.
Oh, wow. You know, this is the second podcast today that I've done where the lemonade stand and the cab come up, and it just makes me so happy to visit that place because that's like a lifetime ago. You know, we're talking, it's 2021 now, so
right. It's crazy.
Yeah, if that was 2008 or 9, yeah, that's over a decade ago. So it makes me so happy to still be in community with you, and just to think about how lucky we were to be in music at that time, you know, in the 2000s and into the 10s. It was just so special. So many great bands. You mentioned Settle and Your Best Friend. But, you know, all of the stuff that was like being seeded in northeastern PA all the way to the western side of the state. Pennsylvania is such a rich ground for music, and we got to be a part of it. So yeah, it makes me so happy that those relationships were not just contained in that time, but we still continue to know each other and celebrate each other and evolve in our work. And yeah, and you with your family, I want to say congrats on the family, and so excited that everybody's healthy and doing well in pandemic as much as we can be. So yeah, I don't take that for granted. It's a miracle to be here and you know, be speaking again.
I immediately dove in after meeting Koji. I remember I bought at the time, I was so fascinated by your story. And if you're not, people who are listening, if you're not really ingrained in like the touring and the business side of music, like there's a stark contrast. You never know who you're going to meet, what kind of day they're going to be having, how the tour is going. And there's so many factors that go into that initial meeting of anybody in those situations. Somebody could be having an off day, and then you don't see them again for maybe a couple of years, and you have a sour remembrance of that meeting. But you were so warm, and what stuck with me was community. You told me about Color Make, which you were working on at the time, and it was an art space, right, where you guys were doing everything from like screen printing to everything. But I remember
mini ramp, doing photos, shows. Right. Yeah, it was like a clubhouse vibe. It was very cool.
And I got a Koji, Pennsylvania shirt that night with a little star where Harrisburg was. Yeah. And to this day, that's like one of my favorite shirts. Doesn't fit anymore, but it's in a box to eventually be made into like a quilt of all my old band shirts for my son. But I have just such a fond memory of that meeting because you were so warm, and it was like this. Initially, you were like, next time you're in Harrisburg, like, let's grab a coffee, let's do that. And not everybody that you meet on the road or in music. And that,
really?
Yeah. So you I dealt with a lot of metalcore bands.
Ah, okay.
And like modern rock bands at that time. So like, you know, in that community, it kind of is. But as I dove deeper into it, I also became fascinated because, like you said, there was a lot of cool stuff going on in Northeast PA at that time, and you were tied in with a lot of the cool bands that were doing things at that time in our area. And what fascinated me was it was all the way from like hardcore bands to the like Midwest emo type, like the Tiger Jaw and Dead End Path. I remember you touring with, correct? Like that. I remember
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I'm one of the only acoustic artists that like it made sense at the time where it's like, oh, Koji's playing with Mindset and Dead End Path, like of course. And I'm like, that's not regular.
Right.
And I kind of had that mindset of like, yeah, I'm like a positive person, you know, but that really speaks to my community mindset. But like, you know, I'm playing essentially protest music. I mean, the last song I wrote is about burning down the state. So yeah, it's like a sing-songy, like fuzzy, like power pop version of a Pete Seeger song. But you know, like I got an attitude, and I want to play with those bands because I like heavy music just as much as like, you know, yeah, Tiger's Jaw or Three Man Cannon or you know, so many bands in the Northeast. You're so. I just think anyone who grew up there was just so lucky. And we had so many great bands, you know, here in Harrisburg, and we had a strong music scene, you know, on the West Shore. There was like a whole block of guitar stores. It was just that big. Live music was that big, and everyone was in a band. But, you know, my favorite bands are coming from Northeast PA and Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. So I definitely, I'm not jealous, but I'm happy for you.
It's great to grow up and still watch them do amazing things. Like my personal favorites, the Menzingers.
Of course.
We're talking watching them as when they were called Bob and the Saggets, and they were kind of like a ska band back in the day. And then I found a poster I dug out a couple months ago for a band I used to manage called I Am Legend from Connecticut. And they played at my venue before it was my venue, and I had booked I Am the Avalanche, and on the poster it was I Am the Avalanche, melded, which is now that's Ed from University Drive, his like first high school band, and then it was Title Fight, Tiger's Jaw, and Three Man Cannon on the bill.
Oh, great show.
So
speaking
like,
of Tiger's Jaw, that new record is incredible. I don't know if you've listened to it, that front to back. It's so good. I love this lineup, and I'm so stoked for them. I love it.
Very excited for them.
Yeah, and Colin from Tiger's Jaw, he played on Crooked in My Mind and had been in one of the Koji lineups. Is just like a great dude. But it's so cool to hear him playing on the latest Tiger's Jaw record, and such a talented musician. I mean, but that whole group, Tiger's Jaw, just having the longevity that they do and still making incredible records. I listened to it, I was like, this is one of my new favorite records. It's awesome. Right. And I'm like, yeah, it's 2021. People are still making incredible music.
Yeah, and so much has come out during quarantine that it's going to be interesting to watch how touring happens after this.
That makes me nervous. Like touring coming back, I think is going to be messy. The amount of traffic there's going to be, the amount of stress. It's going to be a happy thing when we all get to be in a room together around live music. Yeah, all respect to like outdoor shows and festivals, but like I love the small club show, and that's going to take a while to come back, and then there's going to be so much competition. But I hope it's safe for everybody, you know.
I agree.
And that we're putting especially the workers' safety first, you know. But it will be gnarly, and it'll be a great celebration when we get there.
Right. No, I agree, and that's I've been saying like I won't be the first person back doing shows, but I won't be the last person either. Like I'm gonna have to know that it's 100% safe, and anybody who I'm putting in a position to be there or be part of it is completely safe. And I don't know what that looks like yet. So that's why I won't be the first person, but nor the last. So it's gonna be interesting when it comes back.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then if we fast forward a couple of years, I moved to Harrisburg, and I remember just reaching out and being like, hey, like I'm living here now. And the first thing you said to me, you're like, well, what have you done that's Harrisburg? like that's quintessentially Harrisburg. And I was like, I don't know, like, and you were like, well, where do you go? And I was like, oh, like, I go to Tom Sawyer's outdoor bar downtown, and I go to just basically all the Ron Camianca bars down there, right? Like all
yeah.
because I just didn't know. And my friends down here are kind of like broy that I went to high school with. So I remember you were like, all right, well, here's what we're gonna do. Like, come meet me at McGrath's, which became like my favorite place in the entire world.
Hell yeah. I'm like, yeah, you gotta drink where the punks drink. Come on.
Yeah.
And all the metal kids and the skaters and the like, and the mayor. And, you know, I think it's the weirdest place. I'm sure that's what I said that night, is like, this is where the mayor, the fire chief, all the metalheads and punk and hardcore kids drink at. It's really strange. There's like a turnover after happy hour where it gets real, a lot of tattoos, but there's this buffer period where it's like, it at the time was very weird. Yeah, like when we were all old enough to start drinking, the mayor and the fire chief asked my friend, Jimmy, who's since passed, but it's the funniest story about Jimmy, having the fire chief and the mayor ask him if he knew where to find weed. And he was like, yeah, I can find you some right now. And they're like, yo, you know what you're talking to?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. McGrath's was, I'm not drinking like that anymore, but if I was, all day at McGrath's.
You know, we go, well, we haven't gone because of the pandemic, but we watched the Notre Dame games there on Saturday.
Yeah.
That became like kind of our, and even so, like, to my father-in-law, like, loves it. It's like his favorite thing in the world. And
great food too. I'm like, don't just go there for the drinks. Like, they got great food and their staff is still amazing. And if you can have a Saves the Day sing along with the whole team.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I think that evening you also took me to the Brick House, and you were like, well, I guess we have to do a bacon shot. And that was my first introduction to a bacon shot.
Wow, this is awesome. This is great.
And then you told me about Nito Burrito. You were just like, don't go to Chipotle, go to Nito Burrito. It's the most Harrisburg thing. And I was like, okay, this is, and
yeah, set you up. Hey.
And that has become, so then like you said, we don't go out like that anymore either. But for the like 6 years of going out pretty strong when I lived down here, that became like mine. Like, my friends would come and we'd go to McGrath's, and then we'd go do a bacon shot. That was like, everybody has to do a bacon shot, and we would eat at Nito Burrito the next day. So
that's gnarly. Yeah, you caught me on a good year, because I alternate hard between vegan and then just doing whatever. So, that's so good.
Yeah. So my introduction to the real Harrisburg came through you completely. I mean, I don't know that I've been in like I've been to Tom Sawyer's just because when it's nice out, like, that happens sometimes. But like the other ones, like I would just be like, man, like, all these bars smell and the floors are gonna collapse and yada yada yada. But then I really like just fell in love with the Brick House, like going in there on a like spring or summer, like late fall night with the front open, and the bartenders are always just like a little gritty enough to like tell you to go fuck yourself, but in like the nicest way like possible, like, where it's endearing. And there was this kid, Derek Allen, that was in local bands. Not 100% sure of what local bands or whatever, but we were in there, and I was like, man, I'm just gonna go play like Saves the Day and Taking Back Sunday and on the jukebox. And I was like, but like the bartender's probably gonna skip it or change it or whatever. And it turned into this giant sing-along with all these people in the bar, that then I was just like drunk enough to be like, wait a minute, like, I could monetize this experience. And then I started throwing emo nights.
I see. Yeah, cool.
So that was
where did you start throwing them?
5 years ago.
Okay, cool.
We're doing like 600-800 people now.
Wow.
Again, it was like in Scranton, and then we do Tellus 360 in Lancaster, which like count because they're just like a 3-story monstrosity.
Yeah.
But we do the main room there, where like Humphrey McGee plays and stuff, and sell it out, which is pretty neat. It's been a wild ride. About
awesome.
5 years. It started as a joke for the music conference that you've played a couple times that I do, I did it as a artist appreciation night.
Okay,
So it was like
cool.
free drinks for all the bands. And I did it at the Bog, which is like the coolest little bar in Scranton.
Of course,
And
the Bog.
yep. And my buddy Brian, rest in peace, was like, I was like, Brian, like, I wanna just play emo music all night. And he's like, I don't know what emo music is. He's like, I play a wash pan. He's like, but you can do whatever you want. He's like, just go ahead and do it. And to my partner, that's the DJ, I was just like, hey, like, what do you think would happen here? Like, and he's like, 10 people are gonna come. All right, sold the place out in 2 minutes.
Wow.
Like, oh wow, this is something. It's been 6 years now, so it's been. We were going on tour with Craig Owens.
Oh wow.
Right, the first date was on St. Patrick's Day last year in State College, and then the world came to a crashing halt.
And so it goes.
Yeah, exactly. But what I want to really talk about is this new project you have coming out on Get Better Records that is a partnership with Little Amps, and it's a fundraiser. The money was originally a fundraiser for surgery, correct?
Right. Yep, for our friend's top surgery. Yeah,
And
but with the COVID delays, vinyl takes so much longer to come out. So we were just so overwhelmed and surprised at how quickly we were able to like crowdfund and really like our friend was able to fund their top surgery through selling zines in their web store, and people were so generous in supporting them in their craft. So we shifted our focus then to the LGBT Center in Harrisburg,
which is incredible. Like I said, like I'm not from here, so I'm not as tuned in to everything, and I live on the other side of the river, so even I lose a little bit in translation there. But I think it's amazing, and it's for youth programs.
Yeah, it's young adults and youth who use the space. So they have a program called Common Roads, and it services them. And they, and really it goes beyond that. It just makes the space more accessible. So the goal is to fundraise. And then I found a wood shop that would donate the space, and a few friends who we're all going to get together and build a bunch of acoustic treatment and then go and install it. And it just creates more access as, the world is coming back. Disability justice is a really important thing, and something I think that's been made more visible through the pandemic, certainly because of the way that it breaks out, that, things like disability justice along with racial justice, and these things are like intertwined, and you could see how much people were differently affected during the pandemic. So yeah, and imagining the world after, I don't know if pandemic ever really leaves, but in a world where we're able to meet again, it feels like the right thing to do, to be creating more access for communities who are been especially marginalized during this time, and communities that, like we're a part of, we're not separate from.
Right. Which I think is inspiring. And there's another artist from Harrisburg involved as well, right?
That's right, On Mone't. Yeah. So Gabe Darling is On Mone't, and they wrote some incredible songs that I was really blessed to like mix and master for the record. But they also work for the LGBT Center. So it's really awesome to be able to be a part of like their first record ever. When, I've known them for well over half my life, I guess now. And they were always coming to those earliest Koji shows. And then eventually I asked them to sing in my band when I started playing again. So we had a whole year planned of like, I was gonna go tour in the UK, and then everything got canceled and we started to meet on Zoom, and I just grabbed my band together along with the other artists that were gonna be on the tour, and we just started meeting every single week. And it evolved into this beautiful thing. So it's like it's awesome, that piece of it with On Mone't. It's like a great Harrisburg full circle moment where we've been in community together for, coming up on 2 decades, and we get to make this record together and invest in our community, and I just have to say, like, On Mone't and Gabe themselves have been such an inspiration in the way that they've just so bravely moved through the world, and their gender expression. It's part of the reason that I felt comfortable, more comfortable in my skin. So yeah, it's awesome. There's a lot of love on this split, you know.
Well, that I think it's the best use of quarantine. Like we were talking before we started recording, different things that people do during quarantine, and what that was one of the first things that struck me about the creation of the album, as I read through the press release, was that you guys were going to go on tour together. All the acts were going on tour, and that obviously was shut down by the pandemic.
Hmm.
And instead, you found community in technology via, I assume, Zoom calls,
Yeah.
and this amazing project was birthed through that.
Yeah, and it's only possible because there is just so much support and care in that space. And like, you know what, you said it, not everyone is warm in music. And so we didn't realize that the tour that was canceled, you know, initially I called it together because I was like, we need a moment to grieve for the fact that there's been this major shift in the world and in our lives, and we were about to become really good friends, like that, and we just didn't get that opportunity. So we should just have a moment to check in, because no one else is going to do that. Like, it's not like you're in a workplace that's facilitating, like, hey, let's talk about it. Do you need some kind of support? And not every, you know, generally workplaces don't have any type of support. So for us, you have to build that in. And I think it says a lot about us as people. Like, this pandemic has really been a mirror, and what you thought to do in tough moments during pandemic says a lot about where you're at and how we need to grow. And I'm just so proud of us for having that instinct to turn towards each other, to know that there is value in starting a dialogue, starting a relationship. And it just seeded these beautiful relationships that have continued to bear fruit. It's not just this record. Like, we've been there for each other through the uprising, through this new wave of Black Lives Matter, of social movement, alongside all the issues with the pandemic. So, you know, whether we were protesting and engaging with the movements in the UK, here on the East Coast, or in LA, we were able to reflect and do a lot of group study and have hard discussions that needed to be had to better understand what was happening. And that's really powerful. And I'm really reflecting on that. You know, we're talking right now, basically a year to the day when we found out the tour was canceled. And there's a lot of weight. I don't know if you've been getting that heavy energy, but there's like a lot of weight to this moment where we're like, whoa, 1 year of COVID-19, where it's, you know, really been acknowledged in the world shutdown, or the world, but, you know, the so-called United States. And that container, that unit of time, the year, it's pretty powerful. So just to know that you can create community even when you are separate from one another. You can create community and spaces of care and creativity across borders and time zones and geography. It's like, it's beautiful. And I hope people know, if, you know, we still have a lot of pandemic to go. So I still feel like, and then there's the world after it, right? So I think that this record was really important for us to make, and this story was really important for us to tell, because we, you know, we want to shout and sing that community is possible even in the hardest of circumstances, and that you can really set some intention and think hard about the world that you want to live in, and start manifesting that in your relationships and even in your self-care. You know, just having that support week to week. You know, we do yoga over Zoom together. It's not just all music, but we're doing movement and study, and it's really comprehensive, because we're just finding ways to be artists, to be in our bodies, and to really holistically look at like what health can look like given the limitations of pandemic. And I hope people take that away from this, that there's that example out there for people, especially LGBTQI plus community, that they see that there's space for joy, there's ways to create those supports, there's ways to get help and to also pursue your craft and your creative practice. But you got to make it social, and you can't do it alone. So yeah, this is a model of how to build community and start from scratch and actually make something so beautiful.
this podcast was born from that vein of mental health. It was
Mm.
a little bit of like a brainstorm with some friends. So we employ like a videographer and photographer and everything for Emo Night. And some of it was just like, well, how do we keep the name out there? It's been a year since we've done one of these events. How do we keep the name out there? And we did like 2 episodes where I just like interviewed like people who came to emo nights and talked about mental health with them and how they were getting through it. Because on the first year or on the 1 year anniversary, our inboxes were just flooded with messages from people who had leaned on that as a community. And I've watched, we've had it, doing it for so long now, we've had engagements on stage, proposals,
Yeah.
and we've had like these people have created this community, and I've met such amazing people through it that I like love dearly and care so much about now, that I was like, how do I stay connected with them and talk to them? So every 2 episodes or 3 episodes, we have somebody on from that and just talk to them, just talk. Because I've found that a lot of people that gravitate to that music are introverted and don't maybe have somebody to reach out to. So we talk to them and we all hop on and we have these what turn into amazing conversations. And I've appreciated that. And now it's not even like, there's nothing like promotional about this podcast at all. It's not even associated to the emo night anymore, aside from me yammering about it once in a while. But it's morphed more into just a community to talk. And
Yeah.
I've connected with some amazing people, and a lot of the guests have said like everybody has a podcast now, it seems. So I think everybody's yearning for some sort of human contact.
Oh yeah. I mean,
And
you want to hear other voices than the ones you live with, or if you live alone, like you just need that, right? But I gotta say that's one of my favorite things, about our community, but about you, is that I love your enthusiasm for creating space, and I love your enthusiasm for music, and it just shows in how you move through the world. So, yeah, I think that's just so important that we recognize that that's a need. It's not yes, it is a privilege to have the comfort to do music and be a part of it, but I mean, legitimately, it's a need to have these spaces to, again, like move into our experience, like whether that's opening up space for a dialogue and having conversation, or getting people in the same room to experience live music or recorded music that we all know and love, right? You want that communion with your neighbors, and we need that connection. And that's the unfortunate thing about the world we live in. I think that we're realizing now about pandemic is it's built to keep us isolated. It's built to put us in debt and stay at work and not make our art, to feel that pressure and identify. And then we're socialized to perform status and power and leverage, and if you're a music fan, it's not about that. It's about like what you feel. Right. There's some people that made it about sneakers and what record pressing that you have, but I would say by and large, we all know something felt about music that you can't say. That's why we have music. That's why people make it, is because it's that felt thing. And I think we give a little too much credit to people live by that facts, not feelings thing. And I'm like, you can't get anywhere without feelings.
right.
You can't.
Yeah.
That's I feel for you, because I on Fox News, I hear a lot of feelings that are unhealthy ones, and there's no facts there. So it's like an absence of perspective, and really invalidating what you feel and know about connection. And I think that that's one of those things that these virtual spaces, our DIY venues, the records that we love, they create space for us to connect. And it's about connecting. It's not about the borders. That's what we're trying to fight now. It's not necessarily a border per se, in the sense that that a map recognizes it as a border, but like that's a border when you put a pipeline through indigenous land, or when you put it through, whether that's Standing Rock or that's in Brooklyn right now, Brooklyn and Queens, Black and brown neighborhoods right now. That's a border, even though it's inland, but the family detention center is in Berks County, not so far from here. That's you know, and then that's a border when people are harmful to one another with like racist or homophobic attitudes, or you're just harsh with yourself. You know, we're recreating separation, and that's what I think music heals, whether we have that language around it or not, that we feel it. That's that felt thing, and that's the power, you know? So, you know, that's why I never take it for granted. And I am warm to the people when we go to different places on tour, because it's like, that's what I see. That's what I see. I look at people for their potential, but also like them facilitating this sacred space. You know, that's everything to me. So anyway,
No,
that's my TED talk.
I've always said that I would rather put on a show to 25 people that is intimate and meaningful than a sold out 1,000-person room full of drunk people that don't even care what's going on stage, right? And I think that a lot of times I get asked, like my buddies will text me or whatever, like my friend from Pittsburgh texted me the other day, he's like, what's your favorite show that you ever put on? And I was like, oh geez, like that's tough, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I named you as that time when you came in. I don't remember which time through the venue it was, but you had everybody sit down Indian style.
Mm-hmm.
And you came down off the stage and you stood on the stage and just sang acoustic to them. And I thought that created such a community. And all those kids are coming back the next time you're there. You've created that connection with them. And then instead, like, you know, the next night I had like drowning pool and let the bodies hit the floor, and like a guy fell and busted his head open and like was bleeding out, and drowning pool wouldn't stop playing to like let us help him, you know, like, so you have these, like, yeah, drowning pool is like this name that everybody knows. And he like texted back, he's like, well, I'm surprised like it was a Newfound Glory. And I was like, that was great too. I was like, but like the way I look at it isn't like, cause he's like, you must have made a killing that night. And I was like, well, like I don't necessarily, like, shows or at that time were work. So like when I could see special, and I named like 5, but when I could see special moments was so much more meaningful to me, and that community. And we really created that at that venue, which was tough because we were all ages, but we had a bar on the other side. But we had like the Rigby's kids. Like I knew all those kids' parents because they would drop them off all weekend, and like they trusted us to keep them safe, and that meant the world to me. And now those kids are like getting married and having kids, and I feel old when I go home. And but I still get greet, like I'll still greet them with a hug. And there's like the kids that I used to have to throw out 5 times a night for moshing, have a conversation, let them back in. You know, it wasn't you're getting muscled up and beat up on the way out. So I've always been a little against the grain with how I approached concert promoting. And luckily I've had enough people throughout my career that allowed me to do that and kind of saw that. So I've always appreciated that. Speaking of,
I mean, that makes a big difference, is not casting, you know, the kid that's acting out is often the one that needs the love, you know? Exactly. So I mean, when I was promoting shows too, I'm like, you don't got money, come in, you know? And it's like, and do you, like, you know, really identifying which people at the show need some extra attention and be connected with, like, don't feel left out here, you know? And I mean, that speaks to how I am on stage too, is like, you know, I really want to make that connection with people. And, you know, I can't make a space safe. That's something that we all do. And what is really safe, like we're never really able to truly meet everyone's needs, but to make that approach and to have that intention in your heart, that is different. And I imagine it's like, you know, to those kids, you're being the adult that you needed when you were a kid. That's what I'm trying to do in everything that I do, as I hopefully age gracefully, is like, I'm really trying to be better at being the person I needed when I was young. Just like we're making, creating more access at the LGBT Center. It's like, you know, I didn't know I was queer and I didn't have a space like that. So, you know, I didn't know it was a thing I could be. So that's why it's important to like live as bravely and as authentically as we can, because people need that example. And I'm just so happy to hear you're reconnecting with those Rigby kids and they're having kids. It's beautiful, you know, really that next generation.
It's really neat. And I mean, this household has, you know, we're obviously, we're very civic minded, and now having a son, it's so important to us to raise him. Amanda and I figured a lot of stuff out along the way on our own because we're just from very small towns, and my father, it's been amazing to watch him evolve and learn and become this something I'm so proud of. Like, to be able to, through this pandemic, have conversations with him that like he never was like there was never a racist or derogatory aspect of our life that was not like allowed, but it was like not talked about either. But like when everything started happening over the summer and everything, like to have him just be like, this is wrong, and I, as like a 56-year-old man, like feel the need to voice that. Like I need to let people know how I feel about it was really cool, because it was just something that wasn't talked about. You know, like politics in general, it was just like, we don't talk about that, like it goes away, you know. And I'm a hyper political person, to a fault at times. And now raising my son, there's definitely, we want exposure and to all things and all walks of life, and there's just been so much music on in the house. I always say I haven't like, I was home from March until February. Thankfully, I was able to work remotely, and I got to spend the first year of my life 24 hours a day with my son.
Yeah,
or the first year of my son's life, 24 hours a day with him. And music has, like, that's always been part of my life, and he loves music. He loves Koji records. The vinyl goes on, and he likes to dance to them. Big Mac Miller fan currently. That's a big thing for us. Yeah. And then the Five Little Ducks.
Five Little Ducks.
Yeah, we currently have a duck obsession. There's ducks all over the house.
Oh wow! Well, this record that we just put out is like the record for for him. That's awesome.
Right. So one of the connections I thought was really neat. So Get Better Records is putting out the album.
Yep.
And they are a queer-run record label. And then
out of Philadelphia.
Pennsylvania. Yep. And they've been. I feel like I know that name. Like,
you do.
Like I know a lot of releases from there. I'm familiar with it. Is the logo different or not?
It's a little different now, but you definitely know them. I mean, like Hers Collective has been making noise, Empath.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of great bands, and then reissues or cassettes for bands like Anti-Flag, all the way to La Dispute, to Sheer Mag and so many others. Like they do cool stuff, and I feel like, you know, they're one of the punkest labels ever.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool to see. You gotta love it. Like if you like this music stuff and you don't know Get Better Records, that's the label to be a fan of right now. And you can't say that about too many labels now. You know, a lot of them have aged. Labels that we grew up maybe listening to have aged to this point where they're practically a small major label. They don't have that community piece that we love. You know, you're not reading through the liner notes trying to figure out how the bands all know each other and stuff. Get Better is like the place right now, and I'm so proud they're, you know, just down the road from us, and they wanted to do our record. It's awesome.
That's incredible. That's so cool. And then there's a bundle available with one of my favorite coffee houses in the world, Little Lamps.
Yeah.
And you guys are, so if you buy the record, there's a bundle available with instant coffee, which I think is really neat. It's a really nice take on it. Because a lot of people are just doing bags of coffee now. So I think that instant coffee makes it really unique.
Well, you know, you got to make, I go camping and I go on tour. So it's like, you need something that that good coffee that you could take with you, you know, and make anywhere. Hit the gas station, get some hot water. You got delicious Little Lamps coffee, you know. And
is that a tin that it comes in?
No, it comes in, it's like these little sachets. So it comes in 6. It's really easy to travel with. We made art that connects the coffee to the record. We're going to do a run of a couple hundred. It's a cool thing, because a lot of us at this point, we're like, some of us are making shirts, some of us are not so much, but we're thinking about like, what are things that we can do that are a little different, that maybe have a smaller energy cycle, a little more green, a little, like, you know, there's so much shipping. So we're like, how can we put a little less stress on the system? Mm-hmm. So a lot of considerations went into it. And then we wanted to do something that like with the coffee itself that reflected our politics, and for us working with sourcing the coffee from a co-op that commits to buying the entire area's harvest and not just cherry picking, but it really takes care of all the farmers in that area, speaks to how social this group is and how we want to care for our communities, you know? So Little Lamps was really awesome to give us the platform and again, like reach people here in the area because we can't play the show. So being able to reach people through the cafe is really cool as well. And just knowing like the history of cafes, because people that have, you know, most revolutions started around coffee or started around a beer. So in terms of like the change that we want to see, you know, we want to be able to have coffee that we could send to friends and be drinking the same coffee, you know, and I think that that's like maybe we'll get together and have like a coffee house type show where everyone, when they get the pre-order, we can all have like a coffee house Zoom, you know, and leave everybody's camera on so you can just see if you want your camera on, but you can look around and see who else is there. And, you know, maybe we'll do the Koji thing and introduce the whole, all the attendees. But yeah, I think it's a great project from the fundraising aspect to sourcing the coffee to making the art. And then again, with the record, helping each other with, you know, playing on each other's songs, mixing and mastering, developing the artwork, making it happen. And just the relationship that we have with Get Better and Little Lamps. You know, we're really in community with them. We're really invested in not just this project that we're doing that's so public facing, but there's just little things like the mutual aid calls in Philly and supporting the people around Get Better Records. They do such a great job of platforming, especially Black trans people, and making sure like they're raising money and awareness for different causes and making sure we're like as a community meeting those needs. And then on the Harrisburg side, we've been really, you know, there's been a bunch of us who have been really consistent about maintaining a mutual aid like food pantry, and just raised enough money recently on my birthday to be able to put a fridge right next to the pantry. So we're going to be able to do fruits and vegetables right outside of the Green Street Little Lamps, you know, for free. So I raised enough for a fridge and several CSA shares. So we'll able to be supporting local farmers as well. So just it expands outward. When you see this record, and it's a lot of artists, it's a label, it's a coffee roaster. There's so many people, so many hands that went into this release. Well, there's just so much more that we're involved in with respect to mutual aid and community care in our own communities. And we're really excited about that. We hope people see that. Like if you see the record cover or a little news clip on a music site, we hope people investigate more because we're really about our communities, you know?
So I can attest to that. I didn't know what Little Lamps was until you introduced me to it. I think my first time there was a Koji show. But beyond that, I've been watching on social media the work you're doing with the food pantry, and we get a decent amount of listeners from Harrisburg. So if they wanted to make a donation, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, hey, if you're in Harrisburg, it's truly like this is not an org, and we're not ever trying to be one. But we are trying to set up networks of fridges and pantries around Harrisburg because, you know, there's plenty here in Harrisburg. This is an abundant land, right? So we got to make sure that everybody's fed. And while we're doing that, we got to make sure that we eradicate the conditions that led to hunger, you know. But let's start with getting some people fed. So if you want to make a donation, just stop by, just open up the fridge, and please don't just drop it in front of the pantry. Like, we're asking people to make donations and like tidy, you know, so you just be thoughtful about what goes in there. People always think, let's put garbanzo beans and green beans and corn. I'm like, think meals. People need breakfast items. You know, we have little magnets inside where people, like the kids of the families who have been getting food out of the pantry, have like dropped thank yous and little pictures for us. And it's really sweet. And like, please like think what's healthy breakfasts, non-perishables that can make whole meals. So people need canned meats or pastas, things like of that nature. Drinks and snacks go really quick too. But yeah, just thinking in terms of meals. And any help is appreciated. Like if you have a question about that, like hit me up on Instagram or on Twitter, and I'd love to talk you through how to think about it. Or if you're looking to start one in your area, how to maybe talk to a business, or if you have real estate where a pantry or a fridge could go, just thinking through that, you know, because we got to make this social. It's got to be contagious. Taking care of your community and really being a neighbor we got to make that contagious. And just, well, I guess maybe that's not the word during a pandemic, but we got to spread the love, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. I think it's incredible. And I saw on Instagram that I think it was the 3rd Street location was updating their sign the other day and adding the wax onto it, right?
Yeah, they're going to be selling a lot more records, so definitely go there for used records. I know there's going to be a lot more Get Better records in there coming up soon, and of course the Split is going to be there at Little Amp. So yeah, we're really excited to see the coffee and get the records in hand.
I'm excited. I'm right after this I'm going to go. Is it pre-order still available?
Yeah, pre-order is still available at littleampscoffee.com. You can also order direct from us, but the bundle is over at littleampscoffee.com.
So I'm definitely gonna hop on and get one of those. I think that the coffee too for people. I think everybody looks for a little collectible now, right? So that the packaging can look great on a shelf or.
Oh yeah, buy 2. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, get me like that's like I think our mutual friend Nate Darrow got me hooked on cassette tapes now.
Oh, they're the best.
So I have the NWA re-release here.
Oh yeah.
So I don't have a cassette player.
That's my cassette collection. Well, actually, I don't have West Coast rap, but yeah, like I love like old Gangstar and Nas and like yeah, Queens and Brooklyn rap was my shit as a kid. So it was really fun to collect cassettes, and you know, now that I don't travel, I can actually listen to them. So
that's like my our lives are so busy, and I think this has given us all a chance to reflect and also just reevaluate what we value. I find myself in music stretches where I don't listen to a lot of music, and the burnout, you know, happens. But I've been in my vinyl collection throughout this pandemic nonstop. And
isn't it great?
It's been wonderful. It's been wonderful. And just,
you know, there's no other window to click to. You don't have the anxiety of knowing that a whole music library is behind a streaming platform. Like the record that's on is the record that's on.
Exactly. There's no skip. There's no
relaxing.
It's just, yep.
Give me that.
Yeah, you're at the mercy of the record.
Well, we're so stimulated. Think about all the screen time, you know, and you could be on a screen listening to a record, but at least what you're hearing is, and the vinyl process, like you don't realize like vinyl is different. There's preamps and circuits that the final master is hitting as it's being cut to wax. You are getting a different sound, and there is a different frequency response, and you are hearing something different. And at best, even if you turn the quality up, what you're hearing on streaming, which it's still pretty HD, but it's not the detail that's in vinyl, because it's only ever going to be CD quality streaming. So even with the weird stuff that they're doing on Tidal now with the new mastering files, like, yeah, it's kind of lossless, but you don't know what they're doing algorithmically, and it's not a master that any artist approved.
Right.
So yeah, the vinyl is one of the best ways to hear the artist's intent, which is awesome. If you don't have a record player, we're going to be stuck inside a little longer. This might be the time.
Right. And in an odd way, sustainable, right? I watched a documentary on Jamaica's entire music industry still functions on vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll put a new release out. If it doesn't sell in 2 weeks, they melt it back down and just press new ones. They pull it from the store. So like they're in a continuous loop of constantly reusing, because it's a singles, like they're very big on singles. Yeah. So you're putting out a single on the little 45s, and if it doesn't sell in the 2 weeks, then it gets pulled and they melt it down and they put out a new one.
Hey, that's dope. And you know, virgin vinyl is really overrated. One of our variants, over half the pressing, I think, is an eco mix, and it's just random. So but I think that that's an important thing too, is, you know, the most powerful thing about the vinyl truly isn't the purity of the vinyl. It's the mix, the master, and the care that went into cutting that vinyl, which is a really intense process. It's you're getting way more QC at the vinyl stage than you are with algorithmic processing. Doesn't matter how good your audio converters are and your speakers are, you're just not going to beat it. Learning a little bit about the science, you can feel great about your investment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And support the bands. Come on,
Exactly.
we get less than a penny per stream, a
Exactly.
fraction of a penny per stream on Spotify.
That's what I was gonna
Like,
say. Vinyl's been rising, and I think it's
yep,
wonderful because a lot of that's going directly to the artist in comparison
yeah,
to a stream, which is nothing. I
hmm,
learned it the hard way. Put out an album for a band a couple years ago, and lots of plays. There's no return for the band. So if you can support with a T-shirt or a coffee or an
yeah,
album, just always please do what you can.
yeah. We
So
appreciate it. Bands need it. This is the hardest time. It's one of the best times in technology to be making music. It is the hardest time to be an artist. So yeah, any support. I mean, it doesn't have to be us, but support your friends that are making music. Make that a priority if you're a music lover. I imagine your audience is.
yeah, most of them
Yeah.
will be. Yeah. Yep. So in closing, I was able to poke around and check out most of the artists on the album, and they're all fantastic, phenomenal. I think everybody listening would appreciate and really like it. You had shot me a text and were like, "Have you checked out Solstice
Oh
Rey?"
yeah.
Wow, just wow, like
She can sing.
next level talent, like
Yep.
blew me away.
Yep.
And so I want to encourage everybody to. I'll leave links in the comments, or not in the comments, links in the description of this on YouTube and on all the different platforms to each artist where you can check it out and see them and go grab yourself a copy of the album. But that one in particular just
Yeah,
blew.
I knew you'd like that. I when we were talking, I'm like, yo, you're gonna love Sabrina. Her voice is incredible. But yeah, Sabrina goes by Solstice Rey, and she is phenomenal. And those are songs that already existed, and we took the vocal stems, and M from Nervus produced the tracks. So the
Okay.
backing, I mean, M is incredible. M has such an amazing back catalog. But yeah, that's one of those collaboration pieces that we're able to do over, like, in our DAWs and through Zoom and stuff, just figure out how to produce a song
Mm-hmm.
like that. And yeah, they're amazing. I stand by every track on this record. I love it. I love it. I'm not just saying that. I love it. And it's such a wide range of songwriting. It's really cool to see.
It's exciting. I love everything that the project stands for, and I'm excited to see you back doing music. Like you had said before we started, this is 5 years since you last released music, correct?
Yeah, and you know what? I stopped on purpose
Okay.
because I really didn't feel like I had the community around me, and I needed to do some growing and some healing from all those years on the road. And to be coming back and releasing music in this context with these folks in this community, and then again being able to reconnect in this like really um, healthy and positive place in my life and be connecting with folks like you again, it's really special. It's so special. So all that this album represents, but all these friendships and a life in music represents, it's great to be here. And thank you for platforming our voices and supporting this record, and and continuing to create space for people to be a part of music. Really appreciate you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for creating the art for me to give a platform to. Um, that's so important. I'm at the end of the day. I've always told everybody I'm just a fan. I stopped booking anything I don't care about years ago. Like I'm not a concert promoter anymore for like a living. Like I'm a concert promoter when something cool comes along or something that I want to get behind. And I think that the concert promoting that I learned as a young kid was I'm going to find this young band or this new band that I really want to support, and I'm going to grow them, you know, in my market and help develop them and create it. And somewhere it got lost to like, I'm going to book the buzz band and have all the locals sell 100 tickets to open up. and I just, you know, I walked away from a music venue because I couldn't do it. Right. I walked away from 1,000-cap music venue. And from there out, I started the music conference for community, for the local bands to give this highlight to bands from throughout the Northeast. But then I do shows sporadically here and there. Did Anti-Flag last year at a new venue that opened in Scranton. It was incredible. I love those guys, but like I have to really be excited or behind it at this point. I don't feel the need to lend a platform, I think, is our new word that's become so prevalent during the pandemic. But I don't need to build a band that's a bunch of dicks, right? Like I don't need to work with those people anymore. I'm 35 years old and I have a job, thankfully, that allows me to take time and do these concerts or whatever. But I'm not going to do it for. And now with a kid, like if I'm taking time away from my life to lend to this, it's got to be something that's a little.
You got to do it for the world needs more love. You know, the world needs more attention, and I think you know, we benefit when we live our truth. You know, so I'm just happy to hear you're in a place where you're being a part of music on your own terms. You've assessed what your values are and how you want to move, and you know, like communities benefit from people knowing who they are. So it's a long road, right, to get there, and really and have some ease about being a part of music. I think there's always like a lot of pressure, even sometimes when you're just a music fan. There's a lot of pressure to like know all the things or like a piece of music or a band the right way or whatever. And you just got to forget about that performance piece and know who you are and know why you love it and how you want to show up. And I think I think as we grow, we find that peace with music, and hopefully everybody gets there, you know.
I admire my little brother so much. He's a freshman in college, but like he's never, I admire his relationship with music so much. He's never been like a big music like guy like me, right? He's never been like in it. He legitimately just likes whatever he hears that he likes. Like there's no like, he's never had a pretentious thought about it. He's never like been like, oh, I should like that band. It's just like, if he likes it, he 100% likes it. There's no like punk rock cred associated or anything like that to it. And I think it was a couple years ago, he was just like, we were driving and he was just like, I don't like music with guitars in it. And I was like, what? I was like, what do you mean? You know? And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to a show tonight and you're going to come with me. And I took him to the Menzingers holiday show in Scranton. And he was just like, I didn't know this was a thing. He was like, I didn't know this existed. And it was such an amazing first show for him because talk about community. Like that's like a high school reunion of the whole area.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Everybody's there and they always put on like an up and coming local artist and everybody's hugging. And I pushed him into the mosh pit and I saw like fear of death on his face. And then like somebody just like put their arm around him and like took him around in a circle, like a 40-year-old guy that like I know that bartends at a local bar, right? Like
yeah.
And he just got to experience that. And it was, my brother and I are 17 years apart, right? So having moments to connect are tough sometimes, like on that level. And that was one of those moments that was cool. And at that time I was just like, man, like he was able to just hear this and be like, this is music and I like it. And there was nothing more to it. And then
and that's precious to connect over something like that. You know,
and then he was like, will you take me to Warped Tour? And I was like, yeah, we'll go to the last one. And he loved the ska bands, loved them. And then
very Northeast PA of him. Am I wrong?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the ska hub. There used to be like a million. I would put on a ska show and I have 7 local ska bands on it.
Yeah, that's so good.
Crazy. But and then I was like, we've been watching these bands all day, you know, and I grew up with the Motionless and White guys pretty intimately. Like we knew each other very well. And it was, you know, they got to play they were the only band that played at that time. They shut down every other stage. Motionless and White played the last song of the last Warped Tour at Montage Mountain. And it was a
Wow.
really cool moment. And I remember looking at my wife, and we were far back, and I was just like, if they play 570, like people are gonna die. Like I couldn't even imagine. Like every person, all 20,000 that were at Warped Tour that day were in one spot. And when they started into the guttural scream of that, I never saw like somebody go from like kind of bored to like pure fear for his life.
Huh.
Like fists started flying, and he was like, he just wasn't prepared. Like he didn't know that was that again. Didn't know
That's
that
a thing.
He was
Yeah.
just like, what are they like? That they're doing that for fun, and it was just so pure. That it was really neat. And then, but then he listened to the words, and he was just like, are they singing about like this area? And I was like, yeah, the song like the chorus is 570, and he thought that was really neat and appreciated it for that. But then he was just like, I don't ever want to hear that again. But
I'm good.
it was neat, yeah. But hey, I want to thank you so much for coming on and being part of this. I'm so excited for the album, and just again, thank you, and thank you for all that you do, from artist to activist to community builder to introducing me to Harrisburg. Right, like my
Yeah.
Harrisburg experience was so profoundly shaped by
Wow.
you that it meant a lot. And even like I just, when I look back, and it's weird because like I had never been to the Midtown Scholar until you told me about it, and like my engagement photos for my wedding were taken there, right? And we came to
Wow.
see your show there, and Little Amps, I had never had a coffee from there until you played a show there, and we came, and I truly do appreciate that, and kind of cueing me into what was going on. And even that night that you took me to McGrath's, I still see like Danny Fresh,
Yeah, of
you know,
course.
and we
Yep.
still speak whenever I see her. She's like, hey, Koji's friend, and like in passing, right? But we
Yeah, and talk
cross
about a
paths.
lifelong music fan, but also such a gifted photographer. Yeah,
Incredible. Yep.
incredible. But yeah, I did a lot of drinking in Harrisburg, and I appreciate you like sharing those memories and taking me on that journey back in time. But yeah, like we're better for having each other here in Harrisburg, and I'm glad that you're here and you're starting your family here, um, and we're really lucky to again be healthy in a pandemic and still here, and I'm really looking forward to hanging out with you in person,
Yeah,
and hopefully it's at a show.
yes, exactly. Yes, 100%. Like I said, I'm so blessed and grateful that our son's been healthy, and we got all that time with him. But like there was just this picture of his first year in my head, right? And it involved like noise canceling headphones at a show that was probably like Endless Mike and the Beagles Club or Koji or Estakota. Like that was like gonna be the introduction to music for him. And it just hasn't. He's listened to all of it on vinyl, thankfully, in the
Yeah.
basement, and loves it. But he hasn't got to experience anything live yet, so I'm super excited for him to be able to do that.
Well, you get that moment like with your brother again, where it's like, wait, what? This exists.
Right.
Yeah, that's electric.
And
I mean, I was just thinking recently, I'm like, someone's asking like, where did music start for you? Like, when did I really start seriously pursuing it? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it was when I was a toddler and I realized if I touch the strings, it makes the sound.
Right.
And what I felt then is what I feel now. And so I see that with you and what you share, with all your friends, but that special connection with your son where it's like, wow, like that kid loves music already. And when you get to share those moments, those formative moments where there's the recognition of what it means, that felt thing that we've been talking about, like that's awesome.
I'm so excited for that, and I'm so excited for him to meet people like you. When you as well as anybody, more so than me, as we do this thing, and I've toured a little bit. I've done shows for 20 years now. It's crazy to think about. I've just met so many people and developed these amazing connections throughout the years on a personal level, and like to think like he's almost 2 and like he hasn't met any of these people, that are so important to my life. I can't wait for that to happen too, right? Like, but I'm even talking like he hasn't met like my best friend, like from high school, even like he just hasn't. It's like my parents, Amanda's parents, and us for the most part, and then daycare a couple times a week, but it'll be so awesome to see him get to meet these people who are so important to me and say hey.
Yes.
So
yeah, well, I'm excited for you and the fam, and yeah, we'll get together when we all get those precious vaccines, and I wish you a speedy recovery from dose number 2.
I'll tell you what, I it's worth it no matter what, right? Get it.
Yep.
I don't care if you're not dead, it's worth it.
Yep.
But I got like railroaded. We're going on. I got it yesterday at 4:30. So we're however many hours into that, like almost, 36 now. And I didn't feel good overnight. I woke up and I was like, oh, this is like everybody says, you feel better. Went to work. I sat down at my desk and my fever just like spiked.
Ooh.
And I was like, I took my temperature, it was 103, and I was just like, I can't do this. So I like walked down to my vice president. I was like, I can't even talk. I got to go. I'm like dizzy. Came home, took a nap, drove Amanda to get hers, and then we're home now, and I'm starting to just finally feel a little bit better. If the fever would break, I'd be good. I'd be good, but it's worth it. And a little aches and pains and some fever.
Hey, and that relief that you're gonna feel, just not having that hanging over you, even the responsibility of like, if I'm a asymptomatic carrier, you just worry less about it. We still got to be safe. It's not 100% with all the variants going around. Who knows? But yeah, I'm glad you got it. I'm looking forward to getting it. Yeah. Everybody get vaccinated.
Yeah, please. The quicker you do that, the quicker we can all get back to.
And you still got to wear a mask.
Still got to wear a mask. Absolutely got to wear a mask. And
Yep.
So, hey, thanks so much, Koji.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you very much.